From The National, this is Trending Middle East. I'm Yasmin Al-Taji. It's Monday, August 4th. Here are today's headlines. A far-right Israeli minister is drawing backlash from leaders in the Middle East after praying at a sensitive religious site. Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir prayed at the Al-Aqsa compound on Sunday. Under an arrangement with Muslim authorities, the compound is administered by a Jordanian religious foundation and Jews can visit, but may not pray there.
Itamar Ben-Gvir praying at the Aqsa Mosque compound is the latest in a series of provocations that the far-right minister has conducted at the site.
The National's Thomas Helm reports.
The status quo is in place because of an understanding that the Aqsa Mosque compound is basically the most sensitive flashpoint in the entire Israel-Palestine conflict. And while this is an understanding that's been in place for a long time now, there is what started out as a fringe movement of Israeli Jews, who want Israel to exert sovereignty over the site for various reasons. Some view it as a sort of nationalistic imperative. They view Jerusalem as Israel's united capital, and therefore it does not make any sense that the most important place in such a capital is outside of the control of the Israeli state. But others go further and say that as the site of the first and second temples, it is there that Jews must rebuild the temple. It's important to note that this idea is very controversial within Judaism.
Ben-Gvir was there making remarks in response to growing anger in Israel over videos of two hostages released by Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad over the weekend. Ben-Gvir said at the compound that the only way to return hostages and win the war against Hamas was by sending the message that, quote, "We are already occupying all of the Gaza Strip, declaring sovereignty across the entire Gaza Strip, eliminating every Hamas member, and encouraging voluntary emigration," unquote.
That prayer is viewed as, again, another very important breach of the status quo, which is part of a longer chain of Israeli senior figures, particularly from the ultra-nationalist, ultra-Zionist movement, trying to change the status quo agreement.
Meanwhile, Hamas said it would not disarm unless an independent Palestinian state is established. It denied reported remarks by U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, saying the group was ready to put down its arms. Today marks 5 years since the explosion that rocked Beirut. On August 4th, 2020, the improper storage of nearly 3,000 tons of ammonium nitrate triggered a blast that killed more than 220 people, injured thousands, and flattened large parts of the capital. There's a long list of lasting issues. No high-ranking officials have been convicted over the blast. Victims say they haven't received promised insurance payouts, and the country is still awaiting accountability, now under a new government. The National's Jamie Prentis is here with more.
The battle for justice has been uphill ever since the explosion, although the families of the victims and their supporters have never stopped fighting. They continue to rail against a system that failed to protect them and their loved ones and has thus far meant that no one has been held accountable for the explosion. The explosion has been seen as a damning example of the decades' worth of mismanagement and corruption by Lebanon's ruling elite.
At the time of the explosion, the World Bank estimated that it caused losses of more than $8 billion. That included severe damage to buildings and infrastructure and economic decline from the numerous businesses affected.
While much of the directly affected areas have been rebuilt, the port's wheat silos, which helped shield the city, remain partly standing, and a constant damning reminder of what happened on August the 4th, 2020. On Monday, thousands are expected to march near the explosion site to mark the 5th anniversary. Throughout the years and in recent weeks, we've spoken to many of those affected, including the families of the victims. While they've never stopped fighting, they've also repeatedly said that the lack of accountability has only worsened the pain felt for their losses. They've also repeatedly demanded that what is left of those damaged, crumbling silos be retained as a memorial to the victims. But even now, 5 years on, no comprehensive plan over what to do with the silos has been announced by successive governments as they continue to assess the options.
There are new clashes in the predominantly Kurdish northeastern part of Syria. The Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces fired rockets into Sunday at Syrian army positions near the Euphrates and tried to infiltrate the area. That's according to Damascus authorities. It's the first bout of conflict between the SDF and Damascus since U.S.-sponsored talks between the two sides faltered last month. The National's Khaled Yacoub Oweis reports.
A major goal of the new authorities in Syria is to extend their control over the east, the reservoir of the country's oil, gas, as well as commodities production. However, the SDF is a formidable force, having U.S. training and U.S. monetary support.
The Syrian government and the U.S.-backed SDF have blamed each other for starting the hostilities. Tension escalated after President Ahmed al-Shara and SDF commander Mazloum Abdi failed to meet in July.
Thomas Barak, the U.S. envoy to Syria, has publicly supported the government's goal of controlling the east and basically disbanding the SDF. The SDF, however, says it wants to remain as a distinct unit within any Syrian military formations.
The discussions had been aimed at bringing the SDF under national army control and initiating a peaceful government takeover of areas under Kurdish control.
The dynamics in East Syria are diverse. You have the government and its militias on one side, the SDF, which in recent months has managed to, in a way, unify Syria's Kurds. You have the United States, which has bases in the country. Also, there is great interest from Turkey, which regards the SDF as a major national security threat to Turkey and would like to see it disbanded.
That's all for this morning's headlines. You can get these stories and follow live coverage at our site. Yasmin Al-Taji, The National.